Welcome to Rice TVX and the latest transmission of Stranger Than Fiction. If you're watching us on replay, I would say fast forward to about the 3.5 minute mark. Going to give time for everybody to get into today's live stream and get situated. I do appreciate you tuning in, and we're going to go ahead and get things started. And before we begin, a few quick messages from the sponsors of Rice TVX who help make it possible to bring this content to you. You will find information in all the video descriptions of all of my videos for Monarch, for Presearch, and BitSwapDex.
BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com.
Now, in case some of you are unaware, we are only currently live streaming on Rice TVX. Normally, I would be live streaming on both channels, both Rice TVX and Rice TVX2. But in case you don't know or you didn't hear, Rice TVX2 got a strike yesterday for a video that is on Rice TVX. I did appeal the strike and the appeal was rejected. So there's going to be a 7-day suspension starting yesterday for Rice TVX2. And just be aware of that because, again, the same video is on Rice TVX. I don't feel that there's any issue with the video. It is the video that I did with Matthew Belair, the Freedom Convoy. So I encourage you to check it out. If you watch it or you have watched it and you know of something that I said in there that may have violated YouTube's terms and conditions, please let me know. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. Plus, you can find my social media links, contact information, get Rice TVX merch coming soon via the shop, and more. If this is your first time ever watching any of my videos, check out and explore my channels. Make sure you subscribe to Rice TVX and Rice TVX2. Both can be found on YouTube. And hit the notification bell to get alerted to new videos. Also, you can follow me on Odyssey and Library, where I have my full catalog of videos plus extra content. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. If you want to support Rice TVX and what I do directly, I have my PayPal, Cash App, plus my cryptocurrency addresses via my Cointree link below in the video description. You can also join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to some of my videos, exclusive content, and more, with 4 different levels of membership, all offering something different. I definitely need to update that Rice TVX promo. I need to probably do that on a monthly basis, and I haven't done that in a few months. So pretty sure most everybody's getting tired of seeing that. On today's episode of Stranger Than Fiction, we're going to be talking about the United States' Pluto return and what that means with a possible American Revolution 2.0. And also kind of touching on the fourth turning. The fourth turning is something that I'm going to be talking about in future videos. So we're going to briefly discuss it a little bit towards the end of today's live stream. I do appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button as it helps other people to find these videos in the YouTube algorithm flow. If you're not already subscribed to Rice TVX, I would definitely encourage you to subscribe. Help me cross over 25,000. We are less than 200 subscribers away from 25,000. And as I get closer to that milestone, YouTube keeps unsubscribing people. So if you're already subscribed, make sure that you are still subscribed. If you're not getting the notifications and you have the notification bell on, I would recommend that you turn the notifications off and turn them back on and see if that helps things. So thank you again for tuning in. This is the video that got a strike on Rice TVX2. And we have not gotten a strike on Rice TVX as of yet. I had considered removing the video, but ultimately I'm going to stick to my guns here because I do not feel like there's anything wrong with this video. YouTube said that I violated by committing acts of harassment, threatening activity, and or cyberbullying, none of which occurred. And again, um, they will not tell me what it was that I said that was wrong. So it's unfortunate, but if in case you don't see any videos for a couple of days on Rice TVX, you know what happened. I'm going to record a video after this that will be unlisted so that in case I do get a strike, people are aware of what's happening. I'm also going to be going live tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. on Sunday, the 6th of February, for episode 18 of the Spirituality of Law, What They Don't Want You to Know. And I will be joined, as usual, by Mr. Ethan Lucas. So, again, I do appreciate you tuning in. If you would like to support the channel, send a tip, contribution, tribute. Information is scrolling across the very bottom of the screen. Also, make sure you're signing up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. I think I'm going to be sending a newsletter out this evening, which will be the first official newsletter that I'm sending out. So make sure that you are signed up if you're not signed up, and you can do that at ricecrypto.crypto. Take advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange. Get your free half ounce of silver. All you got to do is be a first-time buyer at moneymetals.com, purchase a minimum of $100, and use the promo code RICE, R-I-C-E. You get a free half ounce of silver. It's another way to support the channel. I did a video on this subject just a couple days ago, so if you haven't seen that video, I talk about some of the items that I have collected and gotten from Money Metals Exchange and why. So I would definitely encourage you to check that out. I will really quickly play this little commercial, just a real quick little commercial that I made that you may have seen already about my partnership with Money Metals Exchange. If you are looking to purchase and invest in precious metals, gold and silver are both good safe haven assets to hedge against the financial collapse we are experiencing. Check out Money Metals Exchange. I partnered up with them and you can get a free half ounce of silver. Visit moneymetals.com, be a first-time buyer, purchase a minimum of $100, and use the promo code RICE. You get a free half ounce of silver, and it's another way to support the channel. All right, so with Stranger Than Fiction, I get to talk about some things that are unproven, things that might be fringe topics, things that people may consider to be conspiracies, going down the rabbit holes of law and the legal fiction, history, a lot of which seems to be hidden, and also get to dive into areas of spirituality. And I have talked about astrology on past episodes, and it's not one of my personal strong suits. And I'm going to be trying to invite some different individuals who are more specialized in this area to share some information and thoughts when it comes to this subject. But I'm finding this very interesting, what's going on with Pluto's return. Everything that I'm talking about in today's video, as usual, is going to be linked down below in the video description so that you can read these articles and do a deeper dive. As I always encourage people to make sure that you're doing your own research. I cannot go over the entirety of these articles, but it points out the very important things that I wanted to highlight in today's video. The reason why I wanted to do a video that was kind of based on some astrology, because it's very interesting, especially when you consider everything that's happening around the world today. So before we begin, I want to go ahead and shout out, we got Modern Guru in the house, Planet Pluto on the grind, back bra. Yeah, hopefully you're in the house and watching today, Modern Guru. It's good to see you, Phil. We have Hector, Identity Block. Thanks for tuning in. Gulag, Dime Bar, William Lester. Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely brought to you by the Starfucks. I love that. And my content is definitely not made for children. So if I do curse periodically, hopefully there are no children in the room because my videos are not intended for a younger audience. All right. So I want to go ahead and just full screen this so everybody can see. So what's interesting is we have the return of Pluto over the United States specifically. And that's really interesting to think about because the last time that this has occurred has been July 4th, 1776, during the time period of our independence, the Revolutionary War. And then kind of going through this whole idea of Pluto return, the United States, what it means, what's been happening in the world in our beautiful America over the past few years and where that's escalating. And then kind of topping things off with the fourth turning and how that kind of coincides with what I'm going to be talking about. So there's a lot of different things that are going to be happening in the stars. And again, I will have some astrologers on the show talk about this in a little bit more detail. But the years 2020 and 2021 are a prelude to major transformations in our social, economic, and political ecologies. The disruptions we've endured to this point will begin to coalesce into a meaningful narrative, albeit a challenging one, in the winter of 2022. Governments and economies around the globe will begin to reorient, anticipate a new epoch of human civilization that will coincide with Pluto's reign in Aquarius between 2023 and 2044, what we have termed the Aquarian technocalypse. That's pretty interesting, technocalypse. All right, so to support our planetary thesis, we look at two major transits of early 2022. We have Neptune and we have Pluto. I want to focus on Pluto. Pluto on February 20th, 2022 to 2022, under the, and I don't even know how to pronounce that, something Pisces sun, the planet of prophecy, power, and transformation, will return to a specific degree, Capricorn, for the first time in 246 years, reaching its exact home degree in the birth chart of the United States, dated July 4th, 1776. And this will mark America's first Pluto return. So unless you have lived through this entire time period, which I do not believe that there are any people that are alive from that time period, this is something that no one has experienced. America's first Pluto return. And this shows a little bit of the astrology positioning. Again, this is not my area of forte, but there's a lot of useful information in this particular article that I would encourage you to check out. So we talk about secrets revealed, transformation ahead. Beginning on February 20th, the United States will enter its historic Pluto return as the cosmic alchemists make a homecoming at certain degree Capricorn for the first time since the country's birth on July 4th. 13 months later, on March 23rd, 2023, Pluto will enter Aquarius for the first time since 1797. The year that George Washington, who was born on 2/22, made democratic history by upholding a central tenet of the new Constitution by transferring his presidency to John Adams, thus earning the adulation of many world leaders. So it's really interesting how history, how you can kind of compare things that have happened in different periods of time of history, and that's kind of where the forthcoming comes in. It also says in this article that the United States has its roots in many Plutonian secrets, and it's well documented that many of the founding fathers, including George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, were members of the Freemasons, a fraternal organization responsible for the construction of the nation and its civic landmarks, many of which, like the Washington Monument obelisk, directly reflecting the architecture and spirit of ancient Egypt. Even Benjamin Franklin published his Poor Richard's Almanac annually between 1732 and 1758. It contained a detailed astrological ephemeris calendar that tracked monthly moon phases and motions of known planets. So Benjamin Franklin was definitely an observer of the zodiac and paid attention to what happened in the stars. It's evident that he selected July 4th, 1776 as the United States of America's official birth date rather than July 2nd to not only commemorate the ratification of the Declaration of Independence by John Hancock on 7/7/1776, but because of favorable astrological alignments on that day. Since on July 4th, the transitioning sun would be at 13 degrees Cancer, allowing Franklin to commemorate each of the 13 original colonies with the 13 degrees of the sign of maternal Cancer, an illuminated solar degree for each of her 13 colonial children. So it's really interesting. A lot of people take astrology very seriously. Now, the quote that people talk about, and I'm not sure who the quote comes from, supposedly, but apparently it's a misquote talking about millionaires don't use astrologers, billionaires do. But astrology is definitely very important. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius, the separation of money and state. which is very interesting. So with Pluto entering Aquarius, and that is us kind of talking about the age of enlightenment, the age of Aquarius. Are we in the age of Aquarius? It's very, very telling. So it will be entering Aquarius in 2023 again. The conditions are ideal for the emergence of a new global political revolution. And if you look around what's happening around the world, this kind of makes sense. So things are playing out as above, so below. It's written in the stars and it seems to be playing out. The attempt by individuals to liberate money from the state through digital tokens like Bitcoin and their attendant blockchain technologies, a demand that will gain traction throughout Pluto's long transit through Aquarius. So that's really interesting to think about that, especially when you consider the rise of cryptocurrencies, the timing of when it came out, and what's happening around the world economically. And on March 23rd, 2023, which is 3/23/23, Pluto will move into Aquarius until 2044, the first visitor of the water bearer's domain since 1778 through 98, which was a 20-year period of explosive growth in the Industrial Revolution and the Age of Enlightenment. So 20-year periods, that's something to remember, because that's going to come into play when we talk about the fourth turning. And the fourth turning is a book written by William Strauss and Neil Howe. We'll talk more about it. I want to scroll down a little bit because it talks about Uranus and Gemini, Pluto and Aquarius will be the era of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So if that's something that interests you, definitely go ahead and read this a little bit more detail, because we are at a pivotal point in our history when it comes to economics, both in the United States and globally. And then also Neptune in the fourth turning. This article brought up the fourth turning, and I had been looking into the book. I have a copy of it. I haven't read it. I'm starting to read it, but I have an understanding, a comprehension of what it's about, and it definitely coincides. So it's not just Pluto portending great changes in early 2022. Neptune is a part of this story. Neptune rules divine revelation, often associated with major spiritual and religious movements. And if you notice, there are a lot more people that are getting more connected spiritually to source and their beliefs. So again, this kind of coincides. Neptune carries a three-pronged trident, a weapon given to him by his brother Pluto, which granted him authority over the oceans. And on February 18th, 2022, Neptune will begin a track through 22 degrees Pisces, making an exact opposite to Neptune in the United States natal chart. This aspect only occurs every 165 years. Neptune was last in 22-degree Pisces in late 1850s, a pivotal time in the nation's prelude to the Civil War that coincided with the era's spiritual movement. So again, it's really interesting. So here they notate Lewis and Howe's book, The Fourth Turning, to understand Neptune's cyclical nature and how it expresses throughout history. They're the authors that actually coined the term millennial. So when we talk about millennials, that actually came from William Strauss and Neil Howe, their writings. They did a lot of studies on generations, and these generations are grouped into four turnings. The last for 80 to 90, that last 80 to 90 years each will coincide with half of a Neptune cycle. So it's really interesting. This article has a lot more information that you can go ahead and go over. The second article, what I wanted to highlight, and this comes from bustle.com, all the major astrological events happening in 2022, talking about 2020 and 2021 with the Great Conjunction and Saturn-Uranus squares. So that's kind of intriguing if you want to read a little bit more about that. But the part that I wanted to highlight was the part here in red that I highlighted, the United States Pluto's return. On February 22nd, the United States will undergo a once-in-a-lifetime and first-of-its-kind event known as a Pluto returns. And this means that for the first time ever, Pluto will return to the exact position in the zodiac that it was during the United States inception on July 4th, 1776. It takes about 225 years for Pluto to complete a full rotation through the zodiac. So the Pluto return is an alignment that no human or no people has ever experienced in their own natal chart. Named after the god of the underworld, Pluto is the planet of transformation and extremes. During the US's Pluto return, the country will have to reckon with these intense themes. The dark and power hungry underbelly of authority and societal structures will likely be forced into the light, and it's possible that something entirely new will be reborn. There's been no way to know exactly what it will look like, but the social movements in recent years have shown something has to change. And I think everybody can agree that something definitely has to change. So it's really interesting, again, in the stars, something that happens in a cycle is returning in this time period that we're alive while we're experiencing all this brink of change. So it's very, very fascinating. And this article talks about Pluto to bring the fundamental transformation America needs. And again, if you're looking all around the world, especially all the people that are taking a stand right now, all the different protests, on a peaceful level, as peaceful as it can possibly be, excuse me, you can see where people are getting frustrated, and a lot of people are talking about much needed change. And we are definitely at the end of a fiat cycle when it comes to our monetary system, which controls a lot of the aspects of the world. So it's very pivotal when you're looking at this from that ideal. I'm not really sure why I specifically pulled up this article, aside from the fact that it was just talking more about transformation. Pluto is the slowest of all planets in our solar system, and it takes approximately 248 years to complete one cycle in the horoscope of the United States that most modern astrologers use. Pluto will return to the point occupied in 1776, our nation's founding, in 2022 through to 2023. So that's interesting. Hence, it has been projected that Pluto return will transform our banking system and the value of the dollar itself, all of which could come to pass. People talk about sound money, going back to a gold or silver or multi-metal backing currency. That would be interesting. That kind of backs up here. The second house, however, pertains to more than just money. It also has to do with values, what we as a nation find to be the most meaningful qualities. According to the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal. Now, there's some question, about that time period, but nonetheless, we have the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So far, so good. But the Constitution allowed only white property-owning men to vote, thus was a flawed document. Over time, the Constitution has evolved, and everyone now has a right to vote and theoretically at least pursue meaning and security in life. Could the current U.S. Pluto return bring about a transformation that involves more than a banking system and our currency? It seems to me that it not only could, but that it is. Our country is currently grappling with issues of voting, who gets to, how the votes are counted, and who certifies the elections as valid. And as a certain forces and factions are trying to put the evolved Constitution back in a smaller box. Democracy is based on fair elections, not those that are controlled behind the scenes or that manipulate the results. Without fair elections in which everybody gets to vote, all votes are counted, we will cease to have democracy. So this is why I talk about the idea of an American Revolution 2.0. And when I talk about things like the American Revolution 2.0, and I don't even want to really say this set of words in regards to, these three set of words. But when it comes to these three set of words, an American Revolution 2.0, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see outright violence, that it's going to be traditional and typical in the sense that most people are expecting. So take that in consideration. All right. What else did I want to? I need to make sure I'm changing up things here at the very bottom of the screen as well. I do want to let people know to make sure that you're paying attention to imposter accounts. So make sure you're paying attention to imposter accounts. I'm not going to email or DM you regarding anything related to sending me any money or crypto or participating in any kind of investments or pyramid scheme. Please report these fake accounts. And I mention this often lately. It's not just me, it's other content creators. So make sure you're fact checking who you're talking to and don't send funds to people that you don't know for sure if that's who you're speaking with. I myself specifically am not going to email or DM you regarding sending me any sort of money. If you want to tip or contribute to the channel, that's something that you can do. Information's in the video description. I have it scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So there's a lot of different ways that you can support the channel without me having to contact you to do so. Now, newsletters, there may be something about tipping or contributing potentially, but that will be my official newsletter, and you will know it's coming from me because you're going to ricetvx.com and signing up for that mailing list. So again, make sure you go ahead and head over and do that if you have not already. Towards the end of the conversation here, or after I talk about this a moment, I will come to the chat and see what everybody's saying. And again, I do appreciate you guys tuning in. If this subject is interesting to you and you find it fascinating, not only hit the like button, but comment in the video after the live stream. Comment in the video. Let me know your thoughts if you would like to see me talk more about these subjects, and or if you would like and look forward to me having some people that are more specialized in the area of astrology to come on and discuss things in a little bit more detail. Okay, so there's been a lot of talk about this subject right here on the screen for, I don't know, the past 2 years. It's been brought up quite a lot. And then, you look at everything happening with the World Economic Forum, their agendas. You look at what's happening to nations on political levels, the divide, the problems with economics. Here in the United States, there's a lot of division, more division than we definitely need, and we definitely need to get past it. But that division and differing opinions can cause something like this to take place. And it wouldn't be like what we experienced in the 1800s. The first Civil War, we had a divide of our nation that was real easy to look at. You had the North and the South, and there was a line dividing the two. Not saying there weren't people in the South that agree with the North and vice versa, but this wouldn't be like this time. When you look at the parties, the red, the blue, and the division between political ideologies and thoughts, the country's purple. Its states are purple. So having a conflict with your neighbor is not going to necessarily be good for anybody. So when we think about these 3 words, it may not happen in the traditional sense that people are expecting it to happen. But then again, it could. So, people just need to be prepared. And that's why I try to tell people to make sure that you're doing things to prepare. Having a set amount of months worth of food that you can have to eat, non-perishable foods and stuff, bartering items, investing in things like gold and silver, things like cryptocurrencies and such. I speak about these on my channel often. So, but again, when you're hearing a lot about this topic being brought up on the mainstream news, the Ministry of Propaganda, so do these individuals know what's written in the stars? Do these individuals follow astrology? Do they read the book, The Fourth Turning? And speaking of the book, The Fourth Turning, there's a website called The Fourth Turning, or just fourthturning.com. Again, this is a book written by William Strauss and Neil Howe. If you'd like to purchase the book, I got a link for the Amazon, for Kindle, the audio book, hardcover, paperback, and spiral bound. In American Prophecy, what the cycles of history tells us about America's next rendezvous with destiny. So the Fourth Turning, I will just kind of briefly talk a little bit about it. Again, I will be doing more videos in the future in regards to this subject. There's a really cool interview that George Gammon did. If you search for George Gammon and Fourth Turning on YouTube, this video will come up. And this is one of the authors, Neil Howe. I believe William Strauss has passed away. But Neil Howe, he is one of the co-authors of The Fourth Turning. And this is a really detailed, right over an hour-long interview with George Gammon, who's been on Rice TVX. I don't have this linked in the video description, but just search for George Gammon and Fourth Turning. And what I also did was look for a good summary, since I haven't read the book I've started reading it, but since I haven't read it in its entirety, this will be able to give me a little bit better way to explain what the book is about, and then how it coincides with Pluto's return and everything happening astrologically, written in the stars, and how the as above, so below really, really is so true when you really look into these things and you really look at them with fresh eyes and fresh ears. I know you're not looking at things with ears, but I'm just adding that into the equation. Again, thank you for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, help me get over 25,000 subscribers and subscribe. Smash that like button. Oh, I said I was going to look at the comments real quick. So I will really quickly go back and check the comment section here in just a moment. Again, make sure you're taking advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange as well. Get that free half ounce of silver and another way to support Rise TVX, which would be greatly appreciated. Okay. So let's see here. Got a lot of people joining us, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. Lieutenant Adam Baum, much love from Florida, man. Glad you're tuning in. What about Henry Kissinger? Hasn't he been around since 1655? I said people. I'm not talking about people or individuals that may not be in the people or human category. Teresa, thank you for tuning in. Yes, it's written in the stars. Blackboard. Interesting. And I am good. Thank you. I'm still kind of getting over the sickness that I had experienced. Not completely over that, but getting a lot better. Cam at 830, I appreciate you. It's interesting that they discovered Pluto in 1930. So these books, the fourth turning and such, this came out like 1997, the very end of 1997. So, and I will be doing more videos in the future about the fourth turning. I hope to get Neil Howe on the show since he is doing interviews. So I want to be contacting him and hopefully get him on just like Mr. George Gammon did. So, Karen, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the Great American Eclipse, 21 August 2017. Big Ben, London, stop ringing. Oh yeah, that was interesting. All right, so pair of buildings in the house. Dime Bar, what's going on, my friend? Yeah, it's 2/22/22. Very interesting. My birthday this year reads 2202. Think you missed a 2 in there. No? Yeah, you definitely missed a 2, but it's all good. Yeah, it is pretty exciting, man. And astrology, again, it's not my strong area, but I can definitely see where these correlations where people who understand what's written in the stars and can comprehend it correctly, it definitely makes a lot of sense. The Cowboys just showed up to the Alberta blockade. Now I hear that there's a lot of different convoys all throughout Canada, so that's great, man. William Lester, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate Wendy Ruth. Thanks for joining. Astrologer Joseph P. Anthony. I appreciate the suggestion there, William Lester. I appreciate that. I'll look into them. I'll take notation of that. A1, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate. Dime Bar, again, thanks for being with us. They also create the script to manipulate others to follow to the end. They control once the populace gets to knowing on mass cycle. They bring it all down. It coincides with the Great Awakening. Enough to do so, change things. Can't have that. So yeah, and it's interesting you bringing up the Great Awakening because that really kind of coincides with a transformation of values that these planets, that Pluto and Neptune bring. So it's interesting. And then going into the fourth turning and how this kind of coincides. So the book in a nutshell, the fourth turning, Neil Howe and William Strauss argue that history follows a clear, predictable cycle. Each cycle lasts around a lifetime and consists of 4 seasons, turnings, each marked by a profound shift in national mood and culture. And this life cycle as 4 seasons is made inevitable by 4 generational archetypes and their order, which they argue has recurred throughout modernity or history, the modern history. The book was written in 1997. At the point, the author suggested we were approaching the fourth turning, a life-changing period of crisis that marks seculum. I had to look up how that word was being pronounced. Seculum, the last 500 years, can be viewed through the lens of cycles, with each cycle lasting 80 to 100 years and each cycle containing 4 turnings that typically last 20 to 25 years. Each of these turnings brings a different mood and culture and a different relationship with institutions. Generational archetypes. The Seculum has 4 reoccurring generational archetypes, always in the same order: prophets, nomads, heroes, and artists. Each archetype has a general set of characteristics and endowments which feed into the self-fulfilling nature of the 4 turnings. The 4 turnings, each cycle starts with post-crisis high, first turning, which is defined by a renewal of community life, general periods of stability, and the appreciation for things that were lost during the preceding crisis. In awakening, the second turning period then follows, where the mood shifts to defiance and spiritual discovery. This is followed by an unraveling, the third turning, where people become more distant from one another and more individualistic. Finally, a crisis, the fourth turning, takes hold, where a great threat to livelihoods and lives drive a surge from individualism to civic duty. And preparing for a fourth turning by understanding this word cyclicality, we can prepare for major crises. More importantly, during an unraveling period, we should shift our approach towards building a strong foundation in our communities and diversifying our skills and incomes and readiness. And there's book notes, the key idea of the Seculums, the different 4 turnings. So the first turning, the high, and there's a video. We are in the fourth turning. What does it mean? This kind of shows a little bit of a graph of the years. So these are really 20 to 25 years, each one of these 4 turnings that make up this entire cycle. And in this guy's research, and the years could be slightly off, it's not math, it's history. The high, the 20 to 25 years, we saw 1946 to 1964. We saw the birth of rock and roll, TV, space program, jets, Corvettes, and Mustangs, and the awesome bikini. And then in the awakening period, which is the second turning, 20 to 25 years, between 1964 and 1984, we had Bob Dylan, the Beatles, we had LSD, we had Woodstock, Stanley Kubrick, Star Wars, computers. So that makes sense. The unraveling, 84 to 2008, we had the Berlin Wall, Kurt Cobain. It lists NWA, Public Enemy, LA riots, O.J. Simpson, 9/11, the Gulf Afghan wars. So obviously we saw an unraveling take place. And if you look at the preceding time periods before this, you can see there is a cyclical nature of where these patterns repeat themselves. The fourth turning, the crisis, has it listed 2008 to 2028, but the fourth turning could be going on until 2030. Again, it's not math, it's history. So the crisis, we've experienced the 2008 financial crisis, political divide, the pandemic. I'm not sure where he was going with 40 million, but this is just a good graph to explain a little bit better about how to visualize what the book is talking about. So to go back here, the fourth turning, the high, this is the post-crisis upbeat era where institutions and communities strengthen while individualism weakens. The most recent case was the American high post-World War II. The second turning, the awakening, this period of spiritual upheaval with current value system under attack by a new value regime. The most recent case was consciousness revolution, stretching from the mid-60s to the early 1980s. The third turning, unraveling, a less upbeat era of strengthening individualism and weakening institutions with a new value systems emerging. The most recent case was the culture wars, which began with Reagan's mid-1980s and continued at the time of the book's writing, which again, 1997 was when it came out. The fourth turning, the crisis, a decisive era of crisis and climax, when the value regimes result in the replacement of old civic order with a new one. The last case at the time of the book's writing was from the Great Crash of 1929 through to World War II. The beginning of the latest four turnings perhaps corresponds with 9/11. The latest four turnings is therefore expected to reach its climax and end in the 2020s, which would be late 2020s or 2030. Again, what's interesting about this is just talking about the replacement of old civic order with a new one. That kind of coincides very strongly with what's being said with Pluto return. I want to say the return of Pluto, but they say Pluto return. So the Pluto return, the United States' Pluto return, and how that could lead into an American Revolution and all the talk about a second CW. And when I say second CW, I am referring to these three words. I got to be real careful trying to avoid any situation with Rice TVX getting more strikes. Right now, Rice TVX itself has no strikes. If I get hit for a strike for the convoy video and a strike for this, that would be 2 strikes. Can't do videos for 14 days. So I got to be very conscientious. And if I do get a strike, then I may change up how I do things on the channel, as I have mentioned in past and previous videos. You can go to the website, fourthturning.com, and get a little bit more information about what is a generation, the generation archetypes, the 4 turnings, the time of generations and turnings. And then if you want to purchase the book, you can also do so from here. Fourthturning.com. This is listed in the video description. This summary is listed in the video description. The Amazon link for buying the book in electronic or physical form is in the video description, as well as all the astrological articles that I shared. A seculum is a length of time roughly equal to the potential lifetime of a person. So the 4 turnings make up a seculum, which would be 80 to 100 years. And then each turning is 20 to 25 years. It's pretty interesting. The term was first used by the Etruscans. Originally, it meant a period of time from the moment that something happened to the point of time that all people who had lived at the first moment had died. So a generation. At the point a new seculum would start. According to legend, the gods had allotted a certain number of secula to every people and civilization. This is not linked down below, but in case you were curious about what seculum meant, this gives you a little bit better of an idea. And again, if you want to learn more about the 4th turning, in between me doing more videos, definitely check out this interview with George Gammon and Neil Howe. Just search on YouTube, George Gammon, 4th turning. And they're saying that we are in a 4th turning. And with that being said, and us being in a 4th turning, how that coincides with Pluto, the Pluto return. It's very interesting to consider. So again, I will be trying to bring on some people that are specialized in the area of astrology, kind of get their point of view about what this means and what it could transpire into, so that people can have a little bit better of a clearer picture, so that you guys can make better decisions to prepare for things like this. So this is, again, not one of my areas of specialty, but between those articles, I was able to explain the point of why the Pluto return could be very pivotal into an American Revolution 2.0. Definitely a lot of change of values, potentially our political system and our monetary systems. So I find it fascinating. And let me go ahead and see what everybody is saying here. Yeah, Kurt Cobain and NWA would have been in that their same turning, which would have been the 3rd turning per their system. And A1 says there's also a great year of 25,000 years or so and 140K year cycle. And these are massive changes. Cycles within cycles. Yeah. I've heard of things like that. And yeah, I've kind of looked into like the precession of the equinox and things to that effect, and try to look into astrology, and it definitely fascinates me, and I would like to learn more. But again, it's not my area of specialty. So seems more to me that these events are being picked to try to fit a narrative that someone is trying to convince us based on inevitable fate and not pre-planning. And that is very well possible, Selim. Again, I'm not saying that this is 100%, but I would not say that Strauss and Howe are frauds. Writing a book and talking about a theory um, that they're not saying is that they can't prove is 100% factual, but it's more theory, and they're basing their theory off of evidence and history. I definitely wouldn't agree with you on this statement. So, Dime Bar, thanks for sharing the link. I appreciate. Your birthday is pretty damn special, isn't it? Um, Same as Kurt Cobain, and you're going to be having the Pluto return happening. Interesting. So I do appreciate everybody tuning in. Melissa, good seeing you in the house. Hello to you. Again, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, I definitely encourage you to smash the like button. Let me go back to my browser here and just go through a few more things before we do wrap up today's video. And do remember that I am going to be going live tomorrow on Sunday, the 6th of February, and that will be with Ethan Lucas, author and musician, The Spirituality of Law, What They Don't Want You to Know, episode number 18. 18. So there is a playlist that I have in my playlist section with the 17 episodes we've done previously together. So be sure to check that out and to tune in tomorrow, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific. And here's what I was going to share. Make sure you head over to ricecrypto.crypto if you have not already and sign up for my mailing list. Put your email right here and then submit. Click X out of there. You'll find most of my social media links. I have an About Me section, contact, and a Support Me tab. The shop, I am working on getting merchandise coming soon, as I have mentioned, and I am definitely a lot further behind than where I want to be. But I am going to be hiring some people I'm going to be talking to throughout next week, this weekend, and next week. And hopefully we'll have merchandise to start a merchandise in the next few weeks. That's what I'm hoping. So just stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe to Rice TVX and over on Rice TVX2. Rice TVX2 is the backup channel, the side channel. Make sure you're following me on Odyssey as well as Library. You can support me on Patreon. I'm also on BitChute if you're on BitChute. So look for Rice TVX there. If you want to tip, contribute, send a tribute, however you want to put it. I have my PayPal, my Cash App, and my cryptocurrency addresses via my CoinTree link in the video description. If you're interested in cryptocurrencies, my Linktree/Rice Approved are the platforms and services that I recommend, that I vet for anybody who's interested in cryptocurrency, and take advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange. Get that free half ounce of silver. Be a first-time buyer, moneymetals.com. Purchase a minimum of $100. Use a promo code RICE. Get the free half ounce of silver and support the channel at the same damn time. Yeah, good stuff, man. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to have the links, as I mentioned, for all these articles talking about the Pluto return in the United States and what it means. I have the information for the fourth turning so that you can check it out yourself, because we will be exploring this more on future videos. All right, now before we wrap up, go ahead and see what folks are saying, and then we're going to wrap up today's video. But again, thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it, especially on a Saturday afternoon. Super cold here in North Carolina. And you're definitely entitled to your opinion. I definitely appreciate differing opinions, 100%. If we all agreed about everything, it wouldn't be an interesting world to live in. Tangenting Sunday. We're trying to do our best to stay on track, but that doesn't seem to happen. Dime, when you see stuff like this, if you don't mind, just go ahead and block the user, as you're one of the admins. That was a bot throwing out some scammy stuff. So thank you so much, Parabuilding. I appreciate you tuning in. What's really going on? Awesome username. Awesome username. Yeah, it's definitely Saturday evening in the UK. I don't always consider that when I'm doing live streams about the other people in other parts of the world and what time zone it is. I'm on the East Coast of the United States in North Carolina, and it's Eastern time. It doesn't say Eastern Standard Time is what it is. 2:51 p.m. in the afternoon, which means add 5 hours to that. It's almost 8 o'clock at night in the evening for the UK. And it's about 10 o'clock p.m., almost 10 o'clock p.m. for folks in Spain and in Greece. I know that. So thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you guys. A1 just subbed yesterday after seeing you on BitBoy. At the very least, he is a great guest. Followed a few from ATB. Thanks. I'm generally on every Friday on Around the Blockchain, unless I'm traveling or they're not doing a show, or I fill in on another particular date. But generally every Friday at 5 o'clock p.m., I'm on BitBoys Around the Blockchain as one of the regulars. So I always appreciate the people that are new to Rice TVX. This is one channel with 3 shows. We have the Rice Crypto Show, covering crypto, blockchain, and technology. The Rice Report, that covers politics and economics. And Stranger Than Fiction. That's where we go down the rabbit hole. We dig into fringe topics, conspiracies. We also dive into the areas of law and legal fiction, spirituality, history, and much more. But it's all about freedom and sovereignty. So I do appreciate everybody for tuning in. And thank you for adding that it is 11 p.m. currently right now in Russia. Well, technically 8 minutes till 11 p.m. in Russia. Thank you for telling out the times, everybody. I appreciate. Again, make sure you tune in for tomorrow's live stream. Going to be going live with Ethan Lucas, episode 18 of that spirituality of law. Throw off these banners here and throw up my beautiful thumbnail, which didn't happen the way I wanted it to. I love this thumbnail, by the way. The United States and a bunch of stars makes so much sense for the United States Pluto return. Pay attention to the 20th, 22nd, that time period of February, because Pluto is a coming and it's bringing change.